Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to everyone who has dialed in so far for our webinar this afternoon. Still waiting for a couple more people to join us. So to start, just want to make sure that everyone who has dialed in can hear us okay. If you could possibly just pop the word yes into the question box to let me know that you can hear us, that would be great. Perfect. Thank you very much to the people who've submitted that. That's a great help and a nice way to start, knowing that we don't have any technical difficulties. So my name is Hannah Griffiths. I am one of the recruitment managers for the Oxford MBA and very happy that as part of my role, one of the regions that I have the privilege of looking after is the Middle East. And I'm also delighted to be joined this afternoon by some wonderful members of our alumni who will be participating in the webinar this afternoon and sharing their experiences with you. So I know that for everybody who has dialed in, you're possibly kind of in the middle of your working day, or for some of you possibly just at the end of it, and want to just start really by acknowledging the fact that the working day is kind of no longer typically what it was for most of us, and I'm sure for those of you who dialed in it's very similar. So that was very much kind of the inspiration for our webinar this afternoon. Normally at this time of year, myself and my colleagues would be out and about traveling to different parts of the world, holding info events and having one-to-one meetings with potential candidates, and obviously with everything that's going on with the pandemic currently, we've been very limited with our opportunities to do that. So delighted that we have been able to move that format online this afternoon in the form of this webinar. And as I said, equally as delighted that some of our alumni have been able to dial in as well. And I'm looking forward to having them share some of their experiences of the Oxford MBA with you as we move through the webinar this afternoon. So the format that we will cover is I will speak at the beginning and will aim to give you guys a brief overview of the Oxford MBA. I'll touch a little bit on the experience that Said Business School can offer as a business school that's embedded within Oxford University. And I'm sure that's something that will come up as well when our alumni panel speak a little bit later. I'll also touch on some aspects of the curriculum of the Oxford MBA and also give you some information about the application process. I won't go into too much detail on any of those areas today because I'm keen to get to the alumni panel. I know for lots of people dialing in and listening, the experiences of people who have been through the programme and in particular their career path that they have taken post-MBA and the network that they have built up through participating in the Oxford MBA are all areas that people are really interested to learn about. So want to make sure that we make enough time for sharing those experiences later this afternoon. So we are all currently very limited in terms of our travel opportunities, and so hope that the image that you can see on this slide will momentarily transport you all to the beautiful city of Oxford. And I think the image that you'll see here is one that many people will conjure in their minds when they do think about Oxford. You can see that it includes some of Oxford's most famous buildings, so the Radcliffe Camera, and also some of the Oxford colleges dotted around that. And obviously this is the cityscape that you would get to enjoy daily if you were to join us on the Oxford MBA. But more important than that, really what I want to highlight here and to focus on is the fact that Said Business School is extremely proud to be embedded within the wider university. Oxford University and Oxford as a brand, I know, is something that all of you will be familiar with. It's world famous, a university that's famous for its research excellence, and to some of the most talented people from across the globe. Oh, sorry everyone, I've just noticed that you can't actually see the slides. So just give me a second and let me see if I can rectify that for you all. Can people just pop in? Can you guys see anything different now, or is it still just the original slide that's showing? If someone can pop through on the questions, that would be brilliant. Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. So it seems like it's working now. There we go. So that's the slide that we can now see. Brilliant. Thank you all for that. That is the value of having the question option available. So as I was saying, we're really proud that the business school is embedded within the wider university. Particularly at the moment, I think the value of the research that's done by the wider university, in particular at the moment with the ongoing situation with C19, and the work that Oxford University are doing in terms of searching for a vaccine for that, really hits home to us, you know, the value of the research and the work that is done by people across the wider university. And that positioning of the business school within the wider university and the opportunities that come with that is something that we'll touch on a little bit more as we move through the webinar this afternoon. So this is an image that those of you who have not visited Oxford before and have not visited us at the business school may be less familiar with. So this is the Said Business School. And for those of you who maybe aren't too familiar with the structure of Oxford University and of the collegiate system, it's essentially divided up into departments and colleges. So Said Business School is one of the departments of the wider university, and we are the department which runs the university's business programs. So if you were to join us on the Oxford MBA, you of course become a member of the Said Business School for the year that you would be with us on programme, but you also become a member of the wider university and will become a member of one of Oxford's colleges for the year that you're on programme with us as well. So you'll notice straight away the difference in architecture in terms of the business school and some of the other buildings that you've seen on the previous slide. And the architecture really reflects the fact that we are a newer department of the university, one that is modern facing and forward thinking. In terms of the location of the business school, I think really important to emphasise how conveniently it's located. So right in the heart of the city centre and right beside Oxford train station. So Oxford is located about an hour's train journey from London. I know that lots of you who've dialed in that information is quite important in terms of the career opportunities and just the hub that London is. And so there is very easy access between Oxford and London. In terms of the business school's location within Oxford, it's in very convenient either walking or cycling distance of all of the college accommodation that's on offer, which is really important because for the year that you would be with us on programme, this is where you will spend the bulk of your academic life. So within the business school building, we have lecture theatres where you'll attend your core courses and some of your electives with other members of your cohort. We have a library, which you can see in the image here, just on the second floor. And I'm sure our alumni panel can attest to the fact that MBA students do spend quite a lot of their time in that library. We also have coffee shops, canteens, seminar rooms, so everything that you need to comfortably work through your academic curriculum for the year that you would be with us on programme. So I'm sure that lots of people who have dialed in today may be kind of at the beginning of their consideration of doing an MBA and just at that initial point of doing some research and trying to work out potentially which programs might be right for you and which business schools might be a good fit for you. So we're going to take a little bit of a closer look now at the Oxford MBA programme and the curriculum to hopefully give you all a little bit more guidance around that. First thing that it's important to emphasise is that our programme is a 1 year full-time programme. When we say 1 year, we do mean one full year, so it is September to September, and you are expected to be with us on programme for the full 12 months. There are obvious advantages to doing a 1 year MBA, which are listed on the slide here, but certainly if you are someone who is maybe concerned about not taking too much time out of your career and is looking for kind of a quicker return on investment, then a 1 year MBA can be a great option for that. That said, a one-year MBA may not be for everybody. So if you are somebody who is listening and you are thinking about doing an MBA in order to make maybe a big pivot in your career, but you're not quite sure what that looks like, not quite sure what sector you would like to get into, then perhaps a one-year MBA isn't the right option for you. And one of the things that's a really important part of our role as recruitment managers is having those conversations with you. So after today, be delighted to hear from anybody who wants to have kind of individual conversations about your own circumstances and working out whether a one-year program, which is really intense but really exciting, is the right option for you. So what would that 1 year look like if you were on program with us? So on the slide here, you can see kind of a breakdown of how our curriculum works across the 12 months that you would be in Oxford. Our curriculum is designed to ensure that we meet the overall aim of the Oxford MBA, which is to create resilient, collaborative and versatile leaders who are ready to tackle challenges on a global scale. And you'll see from the slide here that connection between the Saïd Business School and the wider university, which is very much represented in the names of our semesters. So our first 3 semesters have very traditional Oxford University titles. We are one of the few departments who actually has a summer semester, and that is why the summer semester is very excitingly titled Summer. So looking across those semesters, you'll see that in Michaelmas, you will mainly focus on the core courses, which are the fundamentals of business that you would anticipate finding on any MBA program that you would choose to participate in. And it also sees the beginning of one of our integrative modules. There are 3 that are really important facets of our programme. The one that you would do in Michaelmas term is Global Rules of the Game, and the others are introduced as you move across your semesters. Hilary term sees the beginning of your electives, and the elective options are essentially your way of personalising the programme. So tailoring the things that you are focusing on, the areas that you are studying, to make sure that you're working towards your personal career goal. There's a really broad range of electives that are available. There's over 40 altogether. And in terms of how you choose, you may decide that you want to go for a really diverse range of electives and have kind of a really broad spectrum of study across the year. Alternatively, if you're somebody who is maybe really focused on moving into a particular area post-MBA, you might want to choose a certain suite of electives that are more focused on a particular area, like finance, for example, and have kind of a more similarly styled batch of electives that you focus on. You'll also notice in Hilary term that it sees the introduction of 2 of our MBA projects. So GO2 stands for Global Opportunities and Threats Oxford, and it's a project where you'll work in a small team of MBA students thinking about large-scale issues that need to be considered very much on a global scale, and working towards creating a business model that could potentially tackle that problem. So this year, the focus of our GO2 project is climate change. And tomorrow afternoon, we actually have a live broadcast of some of our current MBA students presenting their GO2 projects. And the keynote speaker at that event is Al Gore. So for any of you who think that that sounds interesting, or maybe interested in learning a bit more about GO2, I highly recommend going to our website and registering to dial into that event tomorrow. It should be amazing. The second project that you will start in Hilary is the entrepreneurship project. This is a project where you will have a self-selected team. So you will choose who you want to work with on the project, and essentially challenges you to develop a full business plan and then present it to a panel of invited investors. So for some people, this can be used maybe as a test bed for existing ideas. For others of you who maybe aren't interested in entrepreneurship and don't have any desires to become an entrepreneur, there's real value in the skill set that you'll develop just by working through that process. Trinity term then sees very much a focus on the electives that we've mentioned already. And then in the summer semester, you'll see that you have a range of options available. So you can continue with elective study in the summer semester and do 2 additional electives. You also have the option to do an internship for credit in the summer semester, possibly an option for anybody who is looking to make a pivot in their career and maybe looking to get some practical hands-on experience in a sector that they haven't had up to that point. Alternatively, you can do the SCP, which is a strategic consultancy project, and again is possibly a good option for anybody who is keen to develop some practical hands-on experience of working in consultancy. Just to mention as well, at the bottom of the slide, you'll see two other aspects of the programme. So our co-curricular offer, which includes a number of different labs. And again, we can ask our alumni to speak a little bit about those later on if they have any experience of participating in them. And also our talent development programme, which is run by our Career Development Centre. It's optional and is something that you can dip in and out of as you work through the academic year, and essentially provides a series of soft skills workshops, so focusing on things like developing your presentation skills, potentially developing your negotiation skills, and is something that you can pick and choose which ones you want to participate in depending on the skill set that you're looking to develop. I mentioned that our elective offering is broad, and important just to highlight that there is the opportunity to travel, even though we are a one-year programme, and that comes in the form of our international electives. We currently have 3 on offer, one that takes place in Africa and is the image that you can see here represented on the slide, but also one that runs in New York with the focus on digital transformation of marketing and media, and one that is slightly less international, but because our cohort does come from a vast range of countries across the world, is possibly still considered international to you guys, and that's our FinTech elective, which runs in London every year. So let's take a look now at who you can expect to be joining you on the Oxford MBA if you were to come on programme with us. So it's really important to highlight here the diversity of our cohort, which is obviously diverse from a nationality perspective, but I think that everybody would probably anticipate that from a UK or a European MBA, that the majority of those you'll find will have a really international cohort. But with the Oxford MBA, one thing that I think is really important to emphasize is that we're not only diverse in terms of the nationality mix of our cohort, we're also diverse in terms of the diversity of thought that exists within our cohort. So when we're curating the cohort, we pay really close attention to having a range of professional experiences across the cohort, and we're really looking for people who want to work collaboratively, who are looking to share their experiences from the benefit of those around them. And we very much believe that the value of the Oxford MBA comes not only from the curriculum and from the faculty that you'll have the opportunity to work with, but also having the opportunity to learn from those around you and the other members of the cohort and the experience that they can bring to the table. Really important to highlight here as well that 44% of our current class are female students. That is great and is higher than a lot of other MBA programs out there, but is obviously something that we're still not 100% satisfied with. You know, we're working really hard to make sure that that percentage is growing year on year, and very much looking forward to reaching a point where we have a 50-50 split across our cohort of men and women. The final 2 figures that you'll see on the slide refer to the average years of work experience and the median GMAT score of our cohort. These are just averages and are not requirements. That's something that I'll touch on a little bit more in the coming slides, where we talk a little bit more about the application process. Just to give you a clearer idea here of where in the world our students come from, you can see a breakdown here of our current cohort and the parts of the world that they've joined the Oxford MBA from. Really important on this webinar to highlight that in our current cohort, 3% of our class come from the Middle East. And that is something that we are really, really keen to grow in the coming years. So we would love, if at all possible, to have increased representation from people across the Middle East on our programme. And I'm very hopeful that some of you who've dialed in today will begin to feel that the Oxford MBA might be a good option for you, and might be a programme that you would consider to applying to in the future. In terms of the divide from a nationality point of view, what you see here on the slide is the natural fall of our applications. So we don't have any particular quotas that we're looking to meet in terms of our nationality mix. The only part of the world that we have a commitment to is Africa. So we do have a commitment to make sure that 10% of our class come from the continent of Africa every year. But other than that, what you see here is really a representation of the strength of applications that came through from our cohort that year. I know that a lot of you who have dialed in will be very keen to learn more about career outcomes. And again, that's something that we will speak to our alumni panel about a little bit in the future. But important just to highlight here that 91% of our graduates receive job offers within 3 months of graduating. In terms of where people go post-MBA, you can see on the slide that about 50% of the cohort stay in Europe after they complete the programme. I think that's something that's kind of naturally appealing if you do opt for a UK or European MBA, is that opportunity maybe to have some international exposure post MBA and spend a bit of time either in the UK or in other parts of Europe. The sector split that you can see on the slide, I think, is very much representative of what I said earlier. There is a really, really diverse mix of professional experience represented on the Oxford MBA, and that possibly is why there's such a diverse mix in terms of the sectors that people go on to work in once they complete the programme. So for anybody who has dialed in, who is thinking that the Oxford MBA sounds appealing to them and is something that they would be keen to apply for in the future, going to talk a little bit now about the application requirements. I'm going to talk about this really briefly. So 2 things to flag to start. The first is that if you have any specific questions about the application process after the webinar today, do please reach out to our team. So there'll be a website or an email address that will appear on a future slide. We would love to connect with you and have individual conversations with you about the application process. The other thing is that we do regularly run webinars where there is a specific focus on the application and some tips on how to submit a strong application. So do keep an eye out on our website if you would like to register for one of those in the future. Another thing to highlight just before I talk through the different features is just to say that we do view everybody's application holistically. So everything that you see on the slide here is a mandatory requirement, but if you're thinking that there's possibly one of these areas that might be a little bit weaker than some of the others and that might prevent you from applying, please don't think that way. So we do look at all of the aspects of the applications when they come through. They all hold equal weight for us. And so if there is one area that you have a slight concern about, don't let that be a barrier to you from applying for the programme. So you're required to have an undergraduate degree. The subject of your degree doesn't matter, but we do look for an upper second class honours degree or the equivalent of a 3.5 GPA. We require everybody to have a minimum of 2 years professional experience, and you would detail that on a 1-page CV. If you have a CV that is currently much bigger than that, I would definitely recommend looking to kind of scaling that back. There's a really helpful CV template available on our website that I would recommend that you download and just look to kind of working on your CV a little bit, getting the relevant experience packed into a 1-page document if you can. We do require everybody to submit a GMAT or GRE score as part of their application. I know that with everything that's been going on in the world currently, that lots of you would be facing difficulties with accessing GMAT or GRE test centres, and I'm happy to let you know that there are now online options available for both of those tests, and so you would hopefully be able to access one of those. In terms of which one you should do, both hold equal weight for us, so we don't have a preference for GMAT or GRE, so choose whichever one works works best for you. And a guideline in terms of a competitive score is that maybe a GMAT of 650 we would consider competitive. But as I said, we look at every application individually and we'll weigh up all of the different aspects of your application. So if you do have a GMAT or GRE score that's maybe a little bit lower than that, again, you can connect with us individually and have a conversation with me about that afterwards. But yeah, don't let it be a barrier to you actually going on to submit an application. In terms of references, you need to submit 2. They can be academic or professional. Best advice I would say is to choose 2 people who know you well and who can advocate for you and write about you with a level of detail. You'll also complete an online assessment as part of your application. It's a new feature of the application process this year, so our alumni panel won't have had to go through that, but is essentially a really good way for you to kind of bring your application to life and to let us get to know you a little bit better in terms of your application. It will involve you video recording answers to 4 questions that you'll be set and also writing 1 written answer. There's the opportunity to practice with the online assessment before you submit for real, and I would definitely recommend doing that as well. Your supporting statement is your opportunity to tell us anything about you that you feel is relevant that you haven't managed to include in the application up to that point. It's a short statement, so 250 words, and people really take very individual approaches to what they want to tell us there. Best advice I would say is choose to submit something that's authentic and that's relevant in terms of giving us a clearer picture of who you are and what your motivations are. And finally, you'll also need to do an English proficiency test. Unless you have a degree that was fully instructed in English or was taught in a country where English is the official language. So there's lots of useful information on our website about the technicalities of that. Do please take a look there. Similar to the GMAT and GRE, it is now possible to take the TOEFL test online. So for anybody who is concerned about taking tests with a view to submitting an application sooner rather than later, that option is available to you. Very conscious of time and wanting to move on to our alumni panel now, but for anybody who has some concerns potentially about funding coming on programme, there are a wide range of scholarships available. Again, there's lots of useful information on our website, so I certainly recommend going and taking a look at our scholarships and funding page. But essentially you can see here there's a really wide range available. Lots that don't require any form of additional application, so would be awarded based on the merit of your MBA application. And again, is one of the reasons why you would be looking to consider as strong an application as possible if you are someone who would be looking to be considered for those scholarships. And then there's also another stream of scholarships that are run in conjunction with other departments and external partners. Those will require an additional element of application, so sometimes writing an extra essay or potentially having an additional interview. Again, lots of useful information on our website, but good just to make you all aware that there are a lot of scholarship and funding options available to you. So we're going to move on now to our alumni panel. And just before I ask our panel to introduce themselves, we are very keen to have you all send through your questions for the panel. So do, as they're speaking, send through your questions to us, and we'll dedicate kind of 10 or 15 minutes at the end to go through some of those questions. So hopefully you can get some more insights into the aspects of the Oxford MBA that you're keen to learn some more about. So to start with, I'm going to just ask our alumni panel to introduce themselves to you. And if you guys could just give us a little bit of background, so just tell us where you're based, maybe a little bit about what you were doing pre-MBA and what you're doing post-MBA, that would be wonderful. Ada, would you like to start?
Sure. Hello everyone and Ramadan Kareem. My name is Ida Mansouri and I'm from Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. And I used to work before the MBA in Abu Dhabi Investment Authority. I got a scholarship from there to study in Oxford, and I studied in Oxford, finished my MBA and went back to them. My role changed, so I was, before I joined the MBA, I was working in recruitment and then in compensation in HR. And then after the MBA, I wanted to try something new. So I'm kind of mix of, I would say, technology, HR, and strategy. And it's interesting so far.
And thank you, Ada. Furkan?
Hello everyone, I am Furkan İnalkaç, joining this call from Istanbul, Turkey. Just to give a brief background about myself, I've completed civil engineering degree and also a master's in finance degree in Turkey. Then I applied for Oxford Business School MBA program. Previously, I was working in an infrastructure company back in Turkey in the corporate finance department. And after completing my MBA degree, I started working as an off-cycle analyst at JP Morgan Istanbul office. So I made a kind of move to the investment banking space. Yeah, this is a brief information about myself.
Perfect, thank you, Furkan. And finally, Mohammed.
Yes, thank you, Hannah, for your invite, and it's a pleasure speaking to everyone this afternoon. So I'm Mohammed Fanous. I'm from Lebanon, and before the MBA, I was working in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, in the consumer goods industry, where I spent almost 6 years across several big players in the UAE and briefly in Saudi Arabia. I primarily held commercial and sales roles, led teams across various categories and distribution channels. Currently, I hold an offer, so I've been holding an offer for some time from a consulting company, but I'm waiting for the travel restrictions to be lifted so I can start. So hopefully this will be sooner than later.
Perfect, thank you guys very much. So want to start by looking a little bit at your decision to join us on the Oxford MBA and to come to Said Business School. So wondered if each of you could just speak a little bit about kind of how you came to apply for the programme and then ultimately how you ended up deciding that the Oxford MBA was the right programme for you.
I wanted to study MBA. And for me, I wanted something really close from home, and US was out of scope for me, so I wanted to study in UK. I applied to Oxford and Cambridge, both of them, and I wasn't sure which one I wanted more, but I was leaning more toward Cambridge, basically. I got invited to do interview in both of the universities 2 years ago. It was in Ramadan as well. And what changed my mind, I would say Oxford as a city, because when I saw the city, I felt like everyone is around, busy streets, more students friendly, and I felt it felt more like Abu Dhabi, so it felt like home kind of. While when I went to Cambridge, it felt like a very big city. I would say, yeah, it was kind of empty for me, so I kind of leaned more toward Oxford. In terms of the program, people, professors, everyone was amazing, so it was perfect choice.
Thank you, Ada, and happy 2-year anniversary of your first business talk. I'm glad that we've been able to run the webinar at such kind of a pertinent time. That's really nice. Mohammed, how about you?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a similar story to Ida's. I was considering definitely two major criteria: the 1-year MBA and the UK. 1-year MBA is because I didn't want to get out of the job market for a long time, and I thought it was a huge financial commitment, so I just wanted a 1 year. And the second criteria, which is the UK, it was mainly because I wanted to stay relevant to the region. And you know that in London, a lot of the big companies and even smaller ones run their EMEA operations, so Europe, Middle East, and Africa operations in London. So it was definitely much more relevant to be there, to be in the UK, very close to London, in order to build my network. Whether I wanted to work in Europe, Middle East, or Africa, this is where I wanted. This is where I wanted to be. And yeah, to be honest, I also was considering both Oxford and Cambridge. But honestly, like in addition to the city and how Oxford is much nicer in terms of place, Oxford stood out more in terms of branding and in terms of character, due to its focus on social impact, on really solving world scale problems, and preparing leaders who are responsible and who are able to tackle these challenges. So there might be other programs that offer such programs, but Oxford really stood out in this aspect.
Thank you. And Furkan?
Yes, like in my case, similar to Ada and Mohammed's reasons, I applied for Oxford MBA program because it was 1 year. Actually, my wife was working at home. She was continuing her medical degree, so we need to be away for like exactly 1 year. So US was out of scope for us as well. And also I got a Chevening scholarship from the UK government. So Oxford MBA program is one of the listed programs in Chevening list. So that was another factor for me. And above all, as my friends mentioned, Oxford MBA program is very good in terms of having a global curriculum, trying to solve like worthwhile problems, etc. So that curriculum and the program structure was also appealing for me as well.
Thank you. And I'm sure that's been really helpful for lots of people who've dialed in as well. I know in terms of scholarships and funding, there's so many opportunities out there depending on where you're based in the world, and different options there. So it's lovely to hear that you had that level of support to come on program as well. I'm sure that will be really reassuring to lots of people who've dialed in today who maybe have concerns about the financial aspect of coming on program. So once you guys then came to Oxford, had your 12 months and worked your way through the programme, want to focus a little bit just on what that experience was like. So in particular, if there was any kind of one aspect of the programme that was a highlight for you during the year, and then maybe something else that you would have stand out as a highlight as well. So potentially something to do with a co-curricular or something to do with your college. Ada, any particular highlights for you?
For me, I was so hesitant in doing this, but I actually applied to be section representative. It was the last second before the deadline, and I was like, let me do it. I don't think I will get votes, but I did, and I became section B representative, which took a lot of my time during the year. I also participated in student council as a section representative. I feel like that was both kind of inspiring because I think it was the first section student council that Oxford MBA had, and it was a great experience for me, to be honest.
Nice, thank you. Furkan, how about you? Any particular highlights of your year in Oxford?
Well, I was really amazed by my cohort and like the backgrounds of the people, the variety of nationalities represented in the cohort. So it was really amazing for me. And also there were like lots of extracurricular activities, both in the business school and in the university. So there are like lots of chances that you will be doing what you want while doing an MBA degree at Oxford Said Business School. So these two things I can count for now.
Thank you. And Mohammed, how about you? Any highlights of your year on the Oxford MBA?
Yeah, sure. I'll share two quick ones. The first one is the ability and the attractiveness of the Oxford name to attract best-in-class and world-class speakers and leaders. That's in the business school and in the wider university, especially in the Oxford Union. Almost on a daily basis, you would get people speaking, whether they are presidents of countries, CEOs of companies, world shapers. So it was really amazing to get the chance to access these people and to listen to them talk and inspire others. And the second one, that was something personal and I really enjoyed, which was the peer support program. This is a university-run program through the counseling center, and it picks 12 students from each department or from each college, and it trains them on listening skills and on empathy skills, and it's aimed at really trying to get certain number of students within their cohort to be better listeners, to really understand the problems around around the struggles and the challenges students are facing, and to be the sort of coordinator of trying to help and elevate some of the challenges students face during the year.
Perfect. Thank you. That's really interesting and lovely. I think that you've chosen all to kind of share maybe some of the more kind of extracurricular or co-curricular opportunities that they are. I think because Oxford University's reputation is obviously very strong in terms of an academic point of view, and also because ours is a one-year program, so people anticipate and are right to think that it's really intense from an academic perspective as well. It's really lovely to hear that some of your highlights came in the form of the other opportunities you had to be involved in different things, kind of both extracurricular and co-curricular while you were on program. So that's been really nice. So lots of people who have dialed in and who are kind of in the early stages of considering an MBA, I'm sure have lots of concerns about kind of return on investment and maybe kind of how worthwhile an MBA is in terms of their career plan and progressing in their career. And just really wanted to get kind of your guys' opinions on that from your perspective, having done an MBA, of kind of the value you feel it might have given you, and in particular in terms of career post MBA, and obviously aware as well that everyone who's dialed in this afternoon is based in the Middle East, and so if you had any thoughts on kind of opinions of an MBA or how they're valued across the Middle East, that would be really interesting to share as well. Oh, jump in anyone. Sorry, thanks, Ada.
I think when people here around me here, like my father is not educated as well. When I say Oxford, he knows exactly what do I mean. But if I say another university name, he'll be like, what is that? I feel like Oxford in the Middle East is very known, at least in the UAE. It's probably #1 in the world, considered, like we consider it as #1 in the world in UAE. So I feel like it added a lot to me. I got promoted while I was studying still in my maternity term. So it had that big of influence. The cohort that we had, the people were really amazing, and it was actually a good opportunity for me.
And thank you. Furkan, how about you?
Well, before the MBA program, I was planning to pursue a career in either investment banking or management consulting. So before the MBA program also, I had applied for different positions back in Turkey. But when I compare the outcome of my applications before and after the MBA program, I can clearly say that an Oxford MBA degree really matters. Because when I applied for different positions, when I came back to my home country, I got invites for almost all of them. So I got interviews, and the way people were looking at me, it has significantly changed. So like in terms of reputation, in terms of knowledge that you are getting during the MBA program, I think it really makes sense, even if you consider in terms of return on investment, or it really makes sense to have this degree.
Perfect, thank you. And Mohammed, finally, any thoughts you have about kind of career path and the value of an MBA?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I understand that an MBA candidate would be thinking about their career, their post-career options from day one when they join the MBA, and even before that. And honestly, the value of an MBA was for me was mainly to get the access and to widen my horizons on what I can really do. Honestly, I wouldn't have been able to make a shift from I was working in consumer goods, mainly in commercial roles, into management consulting, I wouldn't have been able to make this shift if it wasn't for the MBA, and it wasn't for the programs and the support programs, whether from the Career Center or from the support that you get from the wide, from the diverse backgrounds of the cohort, in order to make the shift, whether from the case interview preparations, or whether introductions or the recruitment presentations that you attend during the year. So it was mainly the chance, the opportunity to test and to get exposed to different industries and functions, and be able to make to rebrand yourself and to reposition your career in a way that suits you and suits your future in a more personally.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's really helpful. So we're going to go across to some of the questions that have been sent through by our audience. Thank you to everybody who has sent in questions so far. Do feel free to still pop some questions into the questions box. So we have about 10 minutes remaining, and we'll try to get through as many of them as we can. Somebody who has popped in a question here asking a little bit about being part of an Oxford college, which is something I guess we haven't really touched on. So would you all be happy to just say which college you were a member of, and kind of just maybe how that added to the experience, or give our audience an idea of what being a member of an Oxford college actually means for the year that you're on programme?
So I'm from the Queen's College. I didn't stay in college, I stayed in my own apartment. So I didn't really go to the college much, but I enjoyed going for the formal dinners, which were really amazing. I went only when there were like events or like pictures and stuff like that. But to be honest, most of the time I was busy with the school, so I didn't get involved with the college much.
Right, thank you. Furkan, how about you and your college experience?
I was a member of St. Catherine's College when I was in Oxford. As Ada mentioned, the formal dinners were really good. I had chance to meet new people during these formal dinners, and not just in my own college, but also in other colleges as well. Like colleges have the areas called common rooms where people meet and chat with each other. So it was another aspect of the college experience. Yeah, this is, I can say.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. And that actually touches on something that we haven't mentioned, I guess, so far, which is the MBA network, and we'll come back to that in a second. Mohammed, your college experience, what was that like?
So I was part of the Great Templeton College, and it was really like, this is the unique experience that you get out of Oxford. I used to have a supervisor from the college. So this was this college supervisor is someone who would take care of your academic progression, whether you're facing any challenges or difficulties in your studies. The college for me also was a place to meet people from studying in different departments. Green Templeton College is, for example, famous for its medical degrees. So a lot of students at Green Templeton were studying medicine or related fields. The common room, as Furkan also mentioned, is a place to meet and mingle with people from different departments. Again, I also lived briefly in the college, which was also a great experience to live inside the college. And then later on, I moved out into a place closer to the business school. But overall, this is the unique experience that you get out of Oxford, which is the college life.
Thank you all. And something that you guys touched on there, as I said, is the network that you get to build through being a member of a college for the year that you're on programme. But obviously the network that you build through the business school is a really important aspect of an MBA as well, and I know is one of the reasons that a lot of people consider doing one. How did you guys find the opportunity of building that network, and are you still in touch with a lot of people from your cohort still?
Yeah, we still connect. I was texting actually my friend just now. We still connect on daily basis. We have some ongoing projects still, although we finished like our studies, we still want to carry on some projects together. So I feel like the connection is really good, and I've connected as well with people from outside of the MBA. So we had people in Queen's College who were studying Masters of Finance, and I didn't see them in Said Business School as much as I've seen them in Queen's College. So over like formal dinners and stuff, we connected as well, and yeah, it was interesting.
Thank you. We've had a question come through here. We've actually had a couple of questions that are kind of similar to this, asking about the business school's focus on sorry, I've just paused sharing my screen somehow. People here are asking about the focus on social impact that the Oxford MBA has. Could any of you guys just speak a little bit more about that? So people are keen to know kind of how that focus on social impact comes across on the Oxford MBA and what your experience of it was.
Sure, I would like to really point out something about social impact. I'm not sure whether everyone understands social impact the way that Said Business School teaches it and portrays it. Social impact does not mean that, I mean, it could be, but it's not necessarily means that you would go work for an NGO or a nonprofit. It really means that they want to prepare leaders who are responsible, who are conscious and aware about the bigger challenges, the bigger social and environmental challenges that face our generation, and are ready to tackle these challenges. So whether you are part of a finance or investment banking career or consulting career, just being aware and conscious of the bigger challenges that surround us, and having the tools and the willingness to solve them is what is the real value of the social impact aspect of the MBA program at Said Business School. This is my take on it. There are definitely other aspects of it, but this is what I took out of it, maybe.
Perfect, thank you. And just one other question that's come through about the cohort. So somebody asking that you've mentioned that the cohort was very international, and how you felt that kind of added to the experience of the MBA. What were the benefits of being part of a really international cohort?
I would say you learn about different things. Like I remember we used to have lots of meetings about just talking about random stuff about our hometown, or like about our traditions, or like different culture or political things that brings different view basically. So sometimes people would have different view about a character, political character, and someone else from that country will bring a total different view that we didn't even know or were aware about. So I feel like it brought really good discussions.
Perfect, thank you. So really conscious of time and that we're coming into the last 5 minutes. So just to finish up, could I ask each of you if you had any advice for anybody who's dialed in today, who's maybe considering doing an MBA, and in particular, I guess, applying for the Oxford MBA, what piece of advice would you give them? So it can be absolutely anything in terms of the application or in terms of stuff you would recommend they do before coming on program, anything at all that you think might be helpful for people listening today.
So I would advise anyone who wants to apply for the MBA is to be clear to be clear about their MBA goals, not necessarily their post-MBA career, but why they want to do an MBA in the first place. The MBA is a once in a lifetime opportunity to take a step back, reflect, and rebuild yourself personally and professionally. So be clear about why do you want to build an MBA? What do you want to develop in yourself? Because coming to Oxford, you would definitely have the chance and the opportunity to do so. So just be mindful of that. and have a clear plan of what you want to do.
Perfect, thank you.
And also, I can recommend the candidates to decide on their priorities. Like there are lots of MBA programs across Europe and around this region, but you have to look like the specifics of each program, like whether you want a 2 years program or 1 year program. Like what is your purpose of pursuing an MBA degree? I think it will be really good if you can think about this and prioritize your goals and then decide on the right program for yourself.
Perfect, thank you. And finally, Ada, any advice for our listeners?
Great advice, actually. I would say if you can visit the city where the university will be, it will be amazing. You have to visit it just so you can see if you can actually live there for a year or not. If you can't, then it's fine. Another thing is I was very hesitant to apply because my GRE score wasn't that high. And I felt like maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should wait for the next year because the deadline was like within a week or something. But then I spoke to one of the current students and she advised me to actually apply. And I'm glad that I followed her advice and I was there. So your application doesn't have to be perfect. If there is one missing piece that's not that perfect, that's fine. Just apply and hope for the best.
Perfect. Thank you all very much. That's so interesting and really, really helpful pieces of advice there for people who are at the beginning of their MBA journey. So to finish up, just obviously want to say thank you so much to our alumni panel this afternoon for giving up your time and for being so open and sharing your experiences with everybody who's dialed in. We have recorded the webinar this afternoon and we will be sending the recording to everybody, so any of the insights that people want to listen back on, they will have the opportunity to do so. I mentioned earlier on that both myself and other members of our team are really keen to connect with all of you who've dialed in. I know that often for people who are considering an MBA, people are very keen to have kind of individual conversations, and lots of the questions that we've had through this afternoon are very much things that would be better to be answered on kind of a one-to-one basis. So do please send any queries that you have through to our email address that you can see on the screen here, and both myself and our team would be really, really happy to connect with you and to answer any questions that you have. There's also the option on our website to complete a profile review form. So if you are somebody who's considering an MBA but is maybe not sure about the strength of application that you could submit or if it's right for you, do please go onto our website, fill out that form, you can submit your CV, and then a member of our team will be in touch with you to provide you with some further guidance on potentially submitting an application. Do keep an eye out on our website as well for some of the other wonderful webinars that our team will be running. Obviously at the moment we're very much having all of our events done in a virtual setting, and that includes things like some sample lectures being done by some of our wonderful faculty that you can register for, but we'll also be running other information sessions about the MBA programme, the application process, and also some focusing on our 1+1 MBA programme, which is something that we haven't touched on today. So do please keep an eye out on our website and register for any of those webinars that you think might be of interest to you. Thank you all so much for taking the time to join us this afternoon, and we'll look forward to hopefully connecting with many of you moving forward.